Yeah, good afternoon, every one of you. Um, we are seeing this in OSCT Unit 3, in which resins, plasticizers, and this additives we are defining. So far we have seen these resins. Okay, resins like shellac, rosin, and various synthetic resins. Everything we have seen in the until the previous class. So their advantages, everything. Then yeah, today we are going to see what is the solvents and solvent blends or thinners. Okay, in the to form a paint vehicle, we need to have a resin or binder or film former and this thinner we need to have. So first thing, resins we have discussed various natural resin and synthetic resins. So next thing we have to discuss is this one, thinners. So thinners, oh, usually these thinners are nothing but an organic solvents only. Okay, or it will contain organic solvents. To some extent there are oil based paints are also there, there are water based paints are also there. Okay, but usually this type of solvents or thinners are nothing but an organic liquids only, which solubilize blenders. Okay, blenders are nothing but our film forming agents without changing the chemical properties. So they will produce a thinning effect on that one. Its viscosity will be enhanced. Okay, its flowability characteristics, everything will be enhanced, but it will not change the chemical properties of our coatings. Only it will be acting as a flowability enhancer or this dissolvability or solubility enhancer of the blenders or our resins or binders, everything. Okay, it is used to make the paint flowable prior to its application. Okay, if a thinner, we could not add a thinner into this paint, what happens? Its flowability will be zero. Okay, we cannot directly apply. Okay, using a brush application or using some spray application, we have to thin that one, we have to decrease its viscosity. Otherwise we cannot apply them in a uniform way. To do that one, we have to dilute them, we have to solubilize into some thinners. So that thinners are usually the organic in nature. So that will not at all change the chemical properties, only its flowability characteristics will be changed before the application of any paint. Okay, it is so the criteria for the selection of this solvent. Okay, what type of solvent we can use? Like water, also one type of solvent we can use it in water based paint, and many types of acetone, benzene, this white kerosene or turpentine oil, all this we can use. Okay, based on which application we are going to apply that organic coatings or the surface coatings, we have to choose a thinner. Okay, for the choosing the thinner also, we should adopt certain points which are nothing but a main criteria for selection of a solvent. So the main criteria is its dissolving ability. The solvent's dissolving ability needs to be very high. Then only the particular film forming agent which are there, it will be just solubilizing inside this solvent. So if it is low, then the solubility nature will be very low. So solvent will be appearing top side, and the film forming bottom side, top side it will be appearing, and to the bottom of that container, this film forming agent will be appearing. So what is the point in using that type of paints? Okay, to increase the flowability, the dissolvability ability, the dissolving ability of that particular solvent needs to be very high. The next one is the volatility. So it should be moderate. Why it should be moderate? If the volatility is very high, what happens at the atmospheric condition? Atmospheric condition itself, the it will readily evaporate. If it is readily evaporating, then the evaporative losses of that particular solvent will be very high. So if the solvent, this solvent volatility is very high, okay, solvent volatility is very high, then what happens? It is evaporation losses will be very high, it will easily evaporate. So it will not remain in solubilized mode inside this film former. So if the volatility is very low, very low means what happens? Whenever you are applying a paint on some substrate, the mechanism of this paints are nothing but through oxidation, not oxidation, this is what we call through evaporation of this solvent only, a thin film will be deposited by the mechanism or the chemistry of that particular paint or this organic coating. So first, after applying this paint vehicle on some suitable substrate, the mechanism is by evaporating the solvent, this film forming agent will be depositing as a thin film on the substrate. So whenever the volatility is very, very low, the evaporation of this solvent will be very low. If solvent is not evaporating, then during the curing of this paint process, after application of that paint onto the substrate, during curing, that paint will be wetting. Okay, for the infinite time, it will be in a wetting. So one of the ideal property of an ideal paint is nothing but quick drying characteristics it should possess. If the volatility is very low, then the quick drying characteristics of the paint are very less. So because of that reason, the volatility should be moderate. If high volatility is there, the solvent loss to the atmosphere before depositing is very high. Then if the volatility is very less, the solvent, the paint wettability, this paint drying characteristics will be very low. If the drying characteristics is very low, that is also disadvantage. If the evaporative losses are very high for the solvent, it is also disadvantage. So because of this reason, the volatility should be very low for the solvent what we choose for that particular application. The next one is a smell. Okay, it should not produce any smell. Smell should be very low. Okay, if the smell is very high, usually the paint film forming agent will have a smelling effect. Why? Because they are plastics in nature. They are synthetic or the naturally they will possess some smell. If this thinner also producing some smell means that will produce a bad odor. So because of this reason, the smell should be very low for any type of solvent what we choose. The next one is the ignition temperature should be very high. If the ignition temperature is very high, then what happens? It is one type of safety consideration. If that ignition temperature is very low, so then what happens? The safety consideration will be very low. Okay, yeah, the evaporative loss or catching of fire will be very high. Because of this reason, it should not catch a fire. So because of that reason, the ignition temperature of that particular solvent should be very high. Then only the safety of that particular paint will be high. Otherwise, the safety concerns will be more. Then toxicity. Obviously, for any type of chemical what we use, the toxicity should be very low. Otherwise, it will have a adverse impact on our health. Then next, price. Okay, to have economic reasons, so we should have a price of any solvent should be very high, very low. So these are the most common criteria, for 6 criteria. Based on this one, we need to choose a solvent to dissolve inside our paint or some organic coating. So there are many types of coatings are there. There are many types of solvents are there. So what are the common solvents used for this organic coatings? We will see now. So the first one is aliphatic hydrocarbons we will use. So aliphatic hydrocarbons are nothing but a chain structure, not a ring structure. Aliphatic hydrocarbons which are derived from the distillation of crude oil. Okay, crude petroleum oils where we are deriving many solvents. That aliphatic solvents can be used directly as a solvent here. That is also one of the mostly used common solvent in the paint industries, paint and organic coatings industries. The next one is alcohols such as ethanol, propanol, glycol, glycol, butanol. All this we can use coming under the alcohol categories. Then esters also we can use like a propyl acetate and butyl acetate also we can use as one of the most commonly solvent. Then acetone also one of the solvent we can use. Then aromatics like a benzene, toluene, xylene. Then another in water-based paints we can use water also one type of solvent, and white spirit also the solvents we can use. These are the very commonly used solvents in many types of organic coatings. Okay, this one is the solvent. Then there are many types of solvents are there. Okay, these are the most commonly used solvents. So type of solvents means where how the role, what is the role of that particular solvent which is playing inside that organic coatings. Depending on that one, there are many classifications, around 12 classifications something are there. So that we will see 10 10 classifications are there for this one. So types of solvents. So the first one is a true solvent. So true solvent is nothing but a liquid that can dissolve the binder. Binder is nothing but film former or our plastic material, resin material. So it should dissolve, then it is called as a true solvent. Then another name for this solvent is a diluent. So whenever a liquid that cannot dissolve the binder by itself but can be added to a solution to increase its capacity for the binder. So it is not having that much high solubility for the binder, but it can be added to increase the capacity for the binder. Okay, one type of capacity addition whenever it is adding as a diluent. So in the paint applications, after that before application we are dissolving in a kerosene. Okay, before application of the paint, so that time we are calling this as a diluents. The next one is a latest solvent. So what is this latest solvent? So latest solvent is nothing but a liquid. Okay, not a latest, latent solvent this is.
Latent solvent.
Yeah. Then latent solvent. What is this latent solvent? A liquid that cannot dissolve the binder by itself, but increases the binder's tolerance for diluent. So binder's tolerance by diluent. So what does that means? So diluents, when we are adding externally, so it should have some tolerance. Otherwise, its flowability characteristic will not enhance and it will not be solubilizing. It will not be in a compatible mode with that binder. In order to increase its tolerance levels for the diluent, so we will add a small amount of latent solvent. Then whatever the solvent is added, so that solvent is called as a latent solvent. The next one is a thinner. When we call the particular solvent as a thinner, means any pure or mixed liquid added to point to reduce its viscosity, which makes it more flowable. So to make it a more flowable, we will add a solvent. Then the role taken by that solvent is nothing but a thinner role. Then that solvent is called as a thinner. Then next one is a front end solvent. So what is this front end solvent? A fast evaporating solvent that leaves the paint very soon after application, usually before the part reaches the oven. So in the curing process, what happens? Any part which has to be quickly dried means we have to send them in some suitable oven or in some drying medium. Okay, before sending it to that medium, if you add a front end solvent, so that solvent will have a fast evaporating capacity. If it is fast evaporating capacity, before sending it to some suitable oven or some drying mechanism, that particle will be immediately dried upon. After application of a paint, it will be immediately dried. So that type of solvent is called as a front end solvent. Its evaporation capacity is very high. So the paint will have a quick drying mechanism. The next one is the exempt solvent. So what does this mean? The exempt solvent, solvent that does not react with sunlight to form a smog. Okay, some type of solvents will be there, so that will not be that will not be reacting with sunlight. It is best suitable for the exterior type of paints. So whenever we are using that type of solvents in the exterior type of paint, it will not react with the sunlight, and the spoiling characteristics of that particular paint will be very low. So it will not at all form a smog with other reaction with the sunlight. So then that solvent is called as an exempt solvent. The next one is a middle solvent. So a middle solvent is a medium evaporative solvent that leaves the paint primarily during flash off and oven warm off. So this front end solvent is nothing but before sending it to the oven, it will leave immediately. It will evaporate easily. But this middle solvent is nothing but it will have a very medium evaporative characteristics. So it will be evaporating whenever we are just warming. Okay, just initial steps of warming inside the oven, it will leave. Okay, its evaporative characteristic is somewhat less compared to this front end solvent. Then next one is a tail end solvent. So it's slow evaporating solvent added to paint that leaves the paint primarily during the baking cycle. So in the curing process, during the baking cycle only, this type of solvent will leave. Why? Because its evaporative characteristics are very, very low. Because of this, whenever we desire the paint to be drying very slowly, then this tail end solvent we have to use. Whenever we require a quick drying characteristics of a paint, we have to use the front end solvent. Whenever we want a moderate drying characteristics of a paint, we have to use a middle solvent. Then next one is a retarder solvent. A slow evaporating solvent added to paint to prolong the drying time. So to prolong the drying time, we need to add the solvent which is called as a retarders. So that will have a specific applications in some industries. Then solvent blend. So okay, whenever the solvent will be called as a solvent blend means the particular mixture of liquids that gives a paint the desired flow or evaporation properties. So solvent is added to increase or decrease the flowability characteristics of that particular solvent, or in particular, more preciously we can say, to enhance the flowability characteristics of a particular paint and also the evaporative characteristics. Whenever we required this two in combination, we can add any type of combinative solvents so that we can finally can obtain the flow characteristics as well as evaporative characteristics of our desired one. Okay, whatever we are designing. For example, we want quick drying characteristics. At the same time, the flowability characteristics needs to be low. Then we have to dissolve two particular solvent which are having this type of characteristics. So depending on our end use, we should define what type of solvent we will be using in our particular organic coatings. So this is the types of solvents. So next we will see what are the important considerations we have to take when we are blending this solvent with suitable paint, suitable paint or organic coating. So what are the important consideration? So first one is the solvency or solubilizing ability. So the ability of a solvent to dissolve the binder needs to be high. The solvent must be able to keep the binder in the solution. It should keep the binder in the solution mode. Otherwise, if the solvent is not keeping the solution in a binding mode, what happens? The solvent will be floating on top and the binders will be floating on the bottom. So that type of paint will not have a applicability. The binder is separate and the solvent is separate. So we cannot apply them in the practical mode. So to have a good practical application of that particular paint, we need to have a good solubilizing ability of that particular solvent. So that is called as a solvency of that particular solvent. The next one is the evaporation rate. So the solvent must evaporate within the time allowed by the curing schedule. Now curing is nothing but drying of that particular part after application of the paint. So that is called as a curing process. So if the curing process is telling that within 10 seconds that particular part has to be dried means, so the solvent should leave immediately within that 10 seconds or 10 minutes or 10 hours. Within that schedule only it has to leave. So solvent evaporation needs to be taken into consideration before designing, before blending it with some suitable binders. The next one is the viscosity. So it is the viscosity is nothing but a flowability or the flowability of the paint, which is adjusted to provide good atomization plus flow output. So if the atomization is not proper, so it will not produce a uniform thin film or a thick film. So if atomization is very bad like this, so what happens? This much part of a film only will produce at a single point in time. So atomization is poor. Why? Because too low a pressure. So this is also a too little thinner is there. So too little thinner is also producing a pure atomization. So the thickness of the film will not be according to the leveling which we required during the painting. If the proper atomization is happening, okay, then only whatever the desired thickness of the film we need to obtain in the paint application, we will be obtaining. Otherwise, it's the desired characteristics of the film will not be obtaining. So the examples of pure atomization is as shown in these two pictures. So examples of good proper atomization is this one. So atomization should be good. In order to have a good atomization, its viscosity should be in a moderate. Okay, how much desired viscosity needs to be there, depending on that, we have to fix the solvent blend. Then next one is the safety consideration. The safety at most everything, whenever regardless of any industry, the safety is at most importance. So naphtha like hydrocarbons are flammable and chlorinated hydrocarbons are very toxic. So naphtha like when you use a good atomization properties or good flowability characteristics we can obtain, but they are usually flammable. And chlorinated compounds are usually they are very harmful to the environment, where they are very harmful to the living organisms, living beings. So they are associated with the toxicity, but the hydrocarbons are associated with flammability characteristics. So before choosing any types of solvent, the extreme care and extreme moderate balance between this toxicity and flammability needs to be considered. So the safety consideration is also very much important. And cost. Cost needs to be obviously low in any type of design, any type of preparing, any type of industrial operation, the cost should be minimum. Based on all these 5 parameters, we have to choose the blending of solvents. Okay, what type of solvent is required, what type of characteristics we required for the final desired applicability. So these are regarding various types of paints. What is the paint? What is its characteristics? How they need to be protected. So this is regarding the solvent. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay, do you have any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Then, okay, if you can successfully design, successfully obtain all the parameters has been satisfied, okay, with respect to the solvent blends, then a ideal paint, okay, a good paint with a good mechanical and physical properties will be formed. What are the properties which define them as a good physical and mechanical properties of a protective coating? That protective coating is a good protective coating, how we can say? So based on these properties, we can say that particular design, that particular paint what we have formulated is a good paint, good coating. So how we can say means, depending on this type of parameters. One is the adhesion parameters. If the paint film or the protective film or the protective coating is having a good adhesion to the substrate, so then it is a good. So if it is readily leaving, okay, readily coming out whenever you are scratching to this wall. So if readily coming out, so then that is one type of disadvantage. Okay, we have to once again we have to paint, we have to apply some coating once again. So if it is not readily coming, its adhesion is very good for this particular wall. So that paint or that particular coating is very good paint. So adhesion will define is if that the particular coating is a good or bad. Then next one is the flexibility. Okay, if you are using some brush, using some spray, if it is flexible, it will readily, it is very easy for us to apply that paint. If it is not flexible, we cannot apply them very readily. Okay, we have to drag them. The dragging strength we have to apply. Very much high drag we have to apply them. So paint should be, that particular coating material should be very flexible. Then abrasion resistant. Okay, it should be and resistant for the abrasions. Okay, whenever we are abrasing something, it should show resistant. If not, it will be damaged. It should show water resistant. Then hardness should be high. The hardness of that particular paint, it should be high. The porosity should be low. Okay, why? Because if porosity is very high, so it will allow whatever the pollutants which are coming inside, it will allow whatever the water which is coming inside. Then swelling, it should not swell. Okay, if that particular paint is swelling, so it will like very odd. It will not create a uniform leveling. It is not an uniform leveling paint. The swelling should be low, and permeability through it will be very low. If permeability is very high, what happens? It will allow water or whatever the gas, whatever the pollutants which are coming in from inside, it will allow them. So permeability should be low. Then resistance to chemical and temperature changes, it should show a resistance to chemical and temperature changes. It should be able to use at high temperatures also. It should have a tolerance for high temperatures as well as chemicals also. So these are the properties. Based on this one, we can define that particular paint, that particular coating is a good or not. Then next topic is a plasticizer. Okay, plasticizer. Why we have to use this plasticizers? Plasticizers is also one type of additives that will increase the plasticity or elasticity or the fluidity of the coating or on the film forming materials or resins or binder. So to increase the plasticity or the fluidity of the particular coating, we have to use, along with the binders, we have to use this plasticizer materials. So coating formulations based on physically during binders such as nitrocellulose requires external plasticizers for optimal film formation. To have a good properties of a film, we need to use some enhancers like a plasticizers. So that is called as a plasticizers. They are used to control a film formation process of coatings based on physical drying film forming materials. Okay, they can able to control how the coating will form on the particular substrate. Then proper film formation is essential in order to meet the demands on specific coating properties such as specific dry film appearance. So the dry film appearance should be very good. So to have a very good dry film appearance, we need to add some suitable chemicals like a plasticizers and also substrate adhesion. So in the plain good ideal properties, we have seen the adhesion. So the substrate adhesion needs to be very high. If it is not adhering to the substrate, so it will readily leave behind the substrate. If it is readily leaving, once again we have to apply a suitable paint to this one. Then elasticity should be high and hardness should be very high for that particular paint film. To modify all these properties or parameters, we need to use the plasticizers. To enhance all these properties, we need to use some plasticizer materials. So these are nothing but the plasticizers are nothing but the molecules in polymeric film forming materials such as nitrocellulose typically show long chain mobility explained by the strong molecular interaction. So the molecular interaction between the substrate and that particular plasticizer is characterized with a weak van der Waals forces. Okay, weak van der Waals forces. So this weak van der Waals forces needs to be very low. Okay, if this weak van der Waals forces are very high, so that particular paint will be readily removed upon. So it will be readily come out. So there are many roles which plasticizers has to play in enhancing the properties, dry properties or hardness properties or the flowability properties, plasticity, fluidity. All this needs to be enhanced. There are many roles which are played by the Yeah. The role is, first one is, if plasticizers are coming, so it should reduce or entirely prevent the formation of a such bridging bonds like a van der Waals forces. Okay, there needs to be suppress them. Then the next is of synthetic polymers. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Earlier it was hold, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Then the role of plasticizer is, first one is to reduce or entirely prevent the formation of a van der Waals forces or this bridging bonds. Then in case of synthetic polymers, what happens? This can be achieved. This suppressing nature will be achieved by incorporating elasticizing segments or monomers, which sterically hinder molecular interaction. So it will inherit the molecular interaction so that the van der Waals forces or this bridging forces needs to be very low. This chemical modification process is called as inner plasticization. So inner plasticization should be very good for that any type of plasticizer whenever we are adding them to the synthetic polymers. If we are that is not enhancing, so we cannot use as a plasticizer in the synthetic polymer segment. That one. Then the next one is for natural products or hard polymers of poor processing. The option is the external use of plasticizers in the coating formulation. So whenever the natural products we are using, so natural type of polymers or the resin or this binder, film forming agents we are using. So that needs to be used as external plasticizers we have to use. So that is external plasticization. So this for the synthetic polymers whenever we are using as a resin, that is called as a internal plasticization. So inevitably we have to go for the external plasticizations for the natural products. Then the next one is plasticizers interact physically with the polymer binder molecules without a chemical reaction and form a homogeneous system. So without any chemical reaction, they will interact with the binders or the resins to form a homogeneous system, very homogeneous system. The interaction is based on the specific structure of the plasticizer, typically containing polar and non-polar moieties and resulting in lower the glass temperature. So the glass temperature will be very low for that particular paints. In order to lower that glass temperature, there should be some interaction between that resin as well as this plasticizing element. So if the interaction is very low, then we can say the particular plasticizer is very good, having a good miscibility or creating a homogeneous characteristics with the resin. Then we can directly use this plasticizer in that homogeneous system. Then in order to ensure a high efficiency, the plasticizer should be able to penetrate in the resin at film forming conditions. Whatever the film forming conditions which we are employing during the applications, so that conditions, at that condition, it should have a very high efficiency. The plasticizer should have a very high efficiency to create a uniform or a homogeneous system. So that is a plasticizer. Then what is the use of a plasticizer in our coating? So plasticizer should play all these roles whenever we are applying for the exterior or the interior terms or the synthetic polymers or the exterior natural products. Okay, whatever the employing, this has to play all these five roles. But the use of coatings, especially for the coating concerns, what is the use of a plasticizers? So plasticizers are used in the coating formulations, for instance, like a nitrocellulose, NC means nitrocellulose lacquers for the following purposes. So as an example, I have taken this nitrocellulose lacquer for the following examples. It will enhance. So to enable proper film formation, to enable a proper film formation with a uniform system, we need to add a plasticizers. That is one use. Then to improve film appearance and its gloss. So the gloss also it will improve, and also its appearance also will improve. The coating appearance will also improve. The next one is to improve mechanical film properties such as adhesive strength, flexibility, and elongation. So the strength of the adhesion to the substrate and also flexibility during application, its elongation will be very high whenever we are using these plasticizers. Then in order to increase the resistance to light, heat, sudden temperature changes. Okay, whenever the sudden temperature is changing, or that is called as a cold check test. Okay, this test can be used to just find out this one. So to increase the resistance to light, heat, or sudden temperature changes, we can use the plasticizers. So these are the following uses that will be found by the plasticizers, especially in this nitrocellulose lacquers. In terms of lacquers, these are the following reasons. So one of the example, this one. So there are many other roles also it has to play as given in this 5 criterias. Then there are many types of plasticizers, like a phthalates we have. Okay, then many types of this one. Okay, adipates, phthalates. Okay, adipates, phthalates we have. So many types of plasticizers we have. So compared to the phthalates, what happens when we are having the chemicals like adipates? They are less toxic. So whenever paints, nowadays paints we are using in this one, coatings we are using in this one, non-stick tawas, non-stick utensils also we are using, in bakery industries also we are using for the baking also. So whenever we are employing this toxic phthalates inside as a protective coatings for that particular machinery, so it will be having interaction with the food products. Okay, because of this food products interaction, this phthalates has been stopped using in the food industry, especially in the food industries. But adipates, okay, many adipates we are using in the food industries. So what are the types of plasticizers? There are many types of plasticizers. Popularly, these are the common types of plasticizers which they used in olden days, and now also it is using where the toxicity is very less, or in especially in the food industry, these phthalates are not at all using. So the class of chemicals called phthalates are the most commonly used plasticizers. They are odorless, colorless liquids manufactured in large quantities. So they are manufactured in large quantities, especially where the toxicity has a no issue. Then we can use this type of phthalates. So the first one is di-N-octyl phthalate, which is called as a DOP. Then diisooctyl phthalate, DIOP it is called in a short form. Then diisononyl phthalate, that is called as a DINP, diisononyl phthalate. Then diisodecyl phthalate, so DIDP it is called as. Then the fourth one is di2-ethyl hexaphthalate, so DEHP it is called. So all this one in the abbreviation PPP, wherever P is there, so that element, that particular material is called as a phthalate. Whenever in this material A is there, it is called as a adipate. So that we will discuss in the next. But popularly, this type of material, this type of plasticizers are has find very applications in the organic coatings because of the reasons of less costly and odorless, and also it is colorless. Because of these reasons, they are finding many applications, not in the food industries or where the toxicity is very much high matter. So they are not finding applications in that issues. Whenever there is no issue of toxicity, we can use this phthalates with many economic reasons. So the first one we will see in detail. So di-N-octyl phthalate, that is called as a DOP. So DOP, sometimes it is also referred as a DN. Okay, DNOP. So N belongs to any member of this octyl group. So DOP or DNOP is a light colored, low volatile and odorless liquid. So it was the most commonly used all-purpose plasticizers, although mainly used for polyvinyl chloride resins. So PVC resins, it will be used as a coating material, DOP or DNOP. So it is a odorless, it is a light colored or the usually colorless or the low volatility. It will possess the low volatility. So these are popularly used for the PVC resins. So it is insoluble in water and has a viscosity of 56 millipascal second. So millipascal second is nothing but kg per meter second in the SI units at 25 degrees centigrades. Okay, at 25 degrees centigrade, its viscosity is as low as 56 millipascal second. Then there are many features of this DOP, like a good stability to heat and ultraviolet light. So in the regions of very high heat and also in the ultraviolet region, we can use this paint with a good stability. and also broad range of compatibility. So the compatibility with the substrate, n number of substrates is very high. Then excellent resistance to hydrolysis. So it will show you excellent resistance to hydrolysis reactions. Like the chemical structure of DOP will be like this one. So you need not to remember this chemical structure. Just for this convenience, I have given here. Then the next one is diisooctyl phthalate, DIOP it is called. So DIOP is as such as like this is DOP. It all is also an all-purpose plasticizer for the PVC, polyvinyl chloride, and polyvinyl PVA, polyvinyl acetate, and also many rubbers, cellulose plastics, and also for the polyurethane. So it is also a all-purpose plasticizers. So its features also nearly same as the features for this one with the enhanced features. So the chemical structure for this DIOP will be looking like this one. Then the next one is diisononyl phthalate, so which is denoted as DINP, and diisodecyl phthalate, which is DIDP. So usually this DINP and DIOP are the very low cost plasticizers. They have been widely used in coating formulations. So these are very low cost plasticizers. These plasticizers have been preferred, enabling the formation of coatings like highly durable repair coatings for trains, rams, metro rails, cranes, so rendering good elasticity and hardness properties. So this type of plasticizers will be used in many types of painting coatings like a which are used in the trains, for the painting of the trains, for the painting of the tram trains, or for the metro trains or some cranes. Okay, this type of coatings will produce a high durable films, and also it will possess a good elasticity and hardness properties. So these are the two structures of DINP, this one. So this is DIDP structure. The next one is di2-ethyl hexyl phthalate. So DEHP, this one. So DEHP is also a most common member of the class of phthalates, which are used as plasticizers. These are used as a plasticizers, which are very much highly used. Okay, it is a diester of phthalic acid and also branched chain to ethyl hexanol. So it is a ester, diester between this phthalic acid and also ethyl hexanol. So this is a colorless viscous liquid, is soluble in oil but not in water. This is soluble in oil but not soluble in the water. So there are many applications for DEP, many popular applications are there, especially in the underground pipelines where we are using these PVC pipes. So to coat that PVC in the PVC pipe manufacturing, this type of DEHP is very popular. Nearly every plastic material will contain nearly 1 to 40% of DEHP materials. So these are used as a hydraulic fluid and also as a dry electric fluid in many capacitor manufacturing. In the capacitors manufacturing in the electronics industries, this type of DEHP will have a applications. In usually every plastic manufacturing, this type of chemical plasticizers will find application nearly 1 to 40% of that composition will be this DEHP only. Then these are used as a solvents in the glow sticks. So glow sticks, you might be noticed, these are used in for our entertainment purpose. There are many glow sticks are there for emergency purposes, for emergency lighting, like in military uses, like in police uses, like in many medical applications. So these are one-time use sticks. Okay, this will produce some light using some fluorescence mechanism. Okay, for the coating of this solvents. Okay, for preparing this type of glow sticks, this is used as a solvent. DEHP is used as a solvent. Okay, this is one time ring only. Okay, other time it will not produce a light. Okay, for the first time only it will produce a light. So this is called as a glow sticks. Then in medical applications, in medical devices such as intravenous tubing and bags, okay, various tubings and bags, okay, whatever we are taking now, that ICU patients will be carrying many tubings and bags. So to manufacture that one, so many catheters, so all these catheters will be using this DEHP as one type of plasticizer. And also nasogastric tubes, okay, tubes which we are using in the noses and everything. So in that manufacturing also we will use DEHP, and also in the dialysis bags to hold the urine or blood. Okay, all these bags also using this DEHP only, and transmission tubing and air tubes, everything in the medical purpose, whatever the tubings are using, the tubes will be just prepared using this DEHP. So DEHP makes this all the plastics which we are using in the medical applications more flexible and more softer. Okay, using this DEHP, we can make these tubes, all these bags as a flexible one and also in a smoother or a softer plastics. Okay, these are the applications for this DEHP. Then there is a toxicity. As I said you earlier, the toxicity of phthalates are very high, especially when we are using this in a food industry. So for food packaging, phthalates will not be the plasticizer of choice. Hence, other alternative plasticizers are being selected. So phthalates are very toxic in nature. They are reacting. They are having a reaction with the foods. Okay, they are solubilizing inside the food. Because of this, we are consuming. Human beings are consuming. Because of this, many adverse effects, many medical issues are coming. So because of this reason, phthalates are not at all using for the coatings as a food industries. Then one of the major concern for these chemicals is potential migration of the phthalate plasticizers from the coated or printed external surface, okay, inside the packing materials to the film onto the foodstuff containing within. So as I said you now only, so the phthalates will have an interaction with the foodstuffs. Okay, due to this foodstuff interaction, they are producing many toxins, many toxigenic reactions they are having. So obviously for packing inks and especially food packaging, phthalates will not be the plasticizers of choice anymore. Hence, other alternatives of plasticizers are being selected instead. So instead of this phthalates, we have to choose many alternative plasticizers. So that plasticizers will be the answer for the adipates. Okay, adipates are one type of plasticizers, and also this acetyl tributyl citrate. So ATBC it is called as. So its structure will be looking like this. So this is another type of plasticizers. Along with adipates, this is also ATBC, also one type of plasticizers. So ATBC is considered as a safe and is also less toxicity and alternative plasticizers demonstrating improved biodegradability. So biodegradability will be very high, and also the biochemical properties of this ATBC is very high compared to various phthalates as we discussed earlier. So ATBC is widely used now for the nitrocellulose coatings as well as nitrocellulose food packaging inks and packing of medical products. So this ATBC is having now very much high applications, okay, compared to the phthalates in the medical industry, also in the food packaging industry also. Then ATBC tend to be more sensitive to migration as compared to DO. Sensitive, okay, more sensitive to the migration. So the migration is only causing here to spoil out the foods, to have a pathogenic reactions here. So this is ATBC is having a very sensitive to this one. So although still low as compared to the other plasticizers. So this is very sensitive, but it is also having a very low compared to other plasticizers like a phthalates. So one of the applications of ATBC is a lacquers for toys. So it can be used as a lacquers coatings as for the various toys, and also in the food packaging industry, and also in the medical packaging equipments also. This type of ATBC will find many popular applications. Then next one is a dioctyl adipate, DOA. So adipates, now onwards we will be discussing only on the adipates. So phthalates we are not using for the food industry or for the medical purposes because of its toxicity. Then next one is a dioctyl adipate. So this is a diester of adipic acid and also N-octanol. So then DOE features are, it is a low temperature flexibility. So flexibility at low temperatures are very good, and good electrical properties it will possess. So electrical industry will be popularly using this one, and good resistance to weathering and also good stability to heat. So almost in many applications this DOA will find a application, a good applicability. So DOA is used to produce clear film for food packaging applications. So it is also used for the food packaging applications. And in addition, it is compatible with nitrocellulose. So NC it is compatible, and also ethyl cellulose also, and most synthetic rubbers also it is compatible, and high butyryl cellulose it is butyrate also it is very much compatible. So it is almost in every resin it is compatible. The next one is di-2-ethyl hexyl adipate. So it is popularly called as DEHA. So DEHA is also a diester of adipic acid and 2-ethyl hexanol. So this DEHA is a plasticizer that gives flexibility at very low temperatures as well as good heat stability. It is having a good stability, its properties. Then it is used to produce packaged film for food applications and is compatible with nitrocellulose, ethyl cellulose, and also most rubber compounds. So these are the various properties of this type of DEHA. Then DEHA is used mainly in food packaging inks. However, compared to ATBC, it is tends to demonstrate strong tendency to migration. So tendency to migration towards the packaged items will be very high compared to this ATBC. So the tendency will be even very high compared to this ATBC, and the DEHA will be very high for the phthalates. Because of these reasons only, they are having very good interaction with this inside food, and they are producing the toxicity of that is very high. So compared to phthalates, the toxicity is very low in this ATBC. Compared to this ATBC, the toxicity is somewhat higher in the DEHA. Then next one is this one, diisononyl adipate. So this is also adipate. It is called as DINA. So DINA is used as a low temperature resistant and light resistance plasticizer for various PVCs, polyvinyl chlorides, its copolymers, and also in rubbers. To have a low temperature resistance and light resistance, we can use this type of plasticizers in various polymers like PVC and its various copolymers, and also in many rubber compounds. So it is permitted in the field of food additives, food contact materials. So food industry also this type of DINA can be used, and it is used as a carrier solvent for polyurethane systems. So polyurethane systems also it is very much compatible. Then the next solvent is diisononyl 1,2-cyclohexane decarboxylate. So DINCH it is called. So its structure will be like this, and DINCHA was introduced in 2002 as a plasticizer for PVC applications like medical appliance, toys, and food applications. So this DINCHA will have a many good application, especially when we are using this PVC pipes for the water transport or some many solvents transport. We can have a good applicability for this one, good advantages in this one. Because of this reason only, in 2002 this DINCHA has been introduced. Then the next one is alkyl acid ester of phenol. So it is popularly called as ASC, alkyl acid ester of phenol. So it is a ester of alkyl sulfonic acid and phenol. So this ASC is a multi-purpose plasticizer with a good gelling behavior and an exceptional saponification resistance. So soap forming tendency will be very high. It is a very resistant to the saponification, and it is compatible with many types of polymers, including polyurethanes also. It is compatible. So as you can see in the DINA, it is also compatible with polyurethanes, but whereas the previous one, they are not compatible. But this is ASC is also very much compatible for this polyurethane. So usually for resisting the saponifications, we can use this type of ASC materials, and also for the they will act as a good gelling agents and also as an exceptional saponification resistance also. We can use this ASC plasticizers. So these are the various types of plasticizers we can use in our applications, in our coating applications. Okay, is that okay? The plasticizers. Do you catching my point? Are you catching my points?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just you have to read your notes and prepare your notes. Then it will be very easy to understand. Yeah. Then next topic is the additives. Okay, there are many additives are there. To some extent, in the unit 1 only, we discussed what is the major role that additives will play. Okay, what is the importance of additives? So additives will be added in a very small quantities, as such as a plasticizers. They will be of many types. Okay, they will act as a dryers, they will act as a plasticizers, they will act as a fungicide, biocide, insecticide. They will act as a flow controlling agents or a leveling agents. They will act as a defoamers, they will act as a emulsifiers, they will act as a UV stabilizers, they will act as a anti-skinning agents, they will act as a adhesive promoters, corrosion inhibitors, texturizers. They will play all these roles. Okay, in every role there are many examples for this one. So for example, first additive, if you see the dryers, okay, dryers will accelerate the paint drying or hardening by catalyzing the oxidization of this binder. Okay, dryers are nothing but whenever that additive is acting as a dryer, they will enhance the paint drying characteristics. So example may be taken as a red lead, litharge, or some sulfate of magnesium, manganese we can say, take as an example. Whenever these compounds are present in very little amount, so that will enhance the drying characteristics or hardening characteristics of that particular coating material or a binder material. So these are additives. I hope time is there. Okay, we will see this topic in the next class. So this is the last topic of this unit, additives. Okay, I hope you understood this one.